look at some facts pulled right out of the crazy web. I want to pull these out and I want to just ask a question, a couple of questions, basic questions. Let's give me that first. Yeah, there you go. Just take a look at some of these facts. Look, the number of attested biblical Hebrew words is 8,198. Okay, of which some 2,000 are hapax legomena. Take it down. Hapax legomena. What is a hapax legomena? That is a word that appears only once. We only have one reference to it. And usually with those words, you really can't understand what they mean. The definitions are extremely short because they're essentially a guess. So we've got 2,000. So that leaves us with 6,000 words that we know we can trace. 6,000 words. Fantastic. Is that a lot? Is that a lot? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. You biblical Hebrew scholars, hang in there with me. The Oxford English Dictionary estimates that there are around 170,000 words in current use in English, with an additional 47,000 obsolete words. That's interesting. According to dictionary.com, over half the words in an English dictionary come from Greek and Latin. On the academic word list, it's closer to 2/3. Take that down. Oh my goodness. You mean 2/3 of our words in English that we're using every day come from classical origins, Greek and Latin? Yes. 170,000 is impressive. That's an impressive amount. Yeah, biblical Hebrew has a very limited vocabulary of less than 9,000 words, but is tremendously rich in expressing itself. Oh, seriously? Why would you say but is tremendously rich? When you're a linguist and you got to apologize for the language, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Of the 13,962 words in classical Hebrew, 6,556 are homonyms. According to Gilad Zuckerman, the number of attested biblical Hebrew words is 8,198. Look at this. They're counting. Guys, get your counts down. Right? Come on, man. Yes, 2,000 or hapax. The number of attested biblical Hebrew words is 8,198. The number of attested biblical Hebrew words is 8,679. 8,000. What about the Greek? If you have 8,000 words, you can speak your entire vocabulary within hours of waking up. Yeah. How can a language function on 8,000 words when 3,000 of those are hapax legomena? It can't. They don't. Modern Hebrew has around 40 to 60,000. It's growing, right? Modern Hebrew was a recreation of a dead language. They'll grow their vocabulary. Yes, as all languages do. 60,000 is functional. 3,000 to 4,000 is not. There is something wrong here. There is a reason that Julius Africanus, having his debates with Origen and the Christians on where is this language in the Septuagint coming from, there's a reason he says this is Greek. There's no way. Your made up story about 72 dudes going into 72 different rooms and coming out with this translation of Greek from some Hebrew original. No way. No way. It's Greek. But wait a minute. If the Old Testament is Greek, why do we have a Hebrew version? Yeah. And is that Hebrew version accurate? Can you take 8,000 words and turn them into 150,000? Now you know why. Now you know why. It doesn't say what it does. Fantastic. Boom. This is from Biblical Hebrew Made Easy. Biblical Hebrew vocabulary. How much is enough? The law of diminishing returns, right? They've got to sit. Where is this gentleman from? No, Go down to the next. Oh, who is this? This is Reverend Dr. Walter Meyer III, professor of Hebrew at Concordia Theological Seminary. I bet he writes books. And what does he say? He says there are 419,000 words in the Hebrew Old Testament text. Of those 419,000 words, 6,679 are unique that compose the total usage. So the question is, how many of those words do I need to have absolute mastery over to be competent in biblical Greek? Look what he says. 1,903 words will get you all the way to that galaxy. Wow. Is that even possible? Yeah. As a philologist and somebody who studied the development of these languages and the languages that existed 1,000 years before Hebrew, yeah, I have to say, it's starting to look bad. It's starting to look real bad. Now, the fact that this professor can say the way to learn Hebrew is to memorize 1,900 of their words, or 1,000 something, 90, whatever it was, that shows you. The fact that we don't need grammar shows you something is wrong. You're working with a counterfeited language. The Masoretic sect is reforming the Hebrew. And you say, wait, this is for the scholars, biblical scholars. You say, wait, no, I won't, because the simple fact is your language is inadequate. Yeah. Yeah. It's a falsified form. And you say, no, they found these pots with some fragments in them. They found pots with fragments. Sometimes they'll have a collar. They found pots with fragments. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll be wearing some accoutrement. Sometimes they won't. But they'll always tell you the same thing. They found some fragments in a cave. Yeah, that had Greek in them and were translations of the Greek. Doesn't impress me. Your 1st to 3rd century finding doesn't impress me. Let me take you to a book of the Bible that's supposed to be from the 6th century. And just from the stylistic analysis, for all of you at Harvard and Princeton, Yale, the stylistic analysis of the Greek is going to put the scrolls sometime around the 3rd, 2nd, 1st. I'd put it 2nd to 1st, stylistically. BC. Crack your E, bro. I don't care about your E. I talk Anno Domini and before it. Yeah. BC and AD, bro. So what happens to this text? Let's look at how you doing, Gnostic informant.
Good. That was a intense lesson right there on the Greek. One of the things I noticed about the text is when we're looking at which one's translation and which one looks like the native text. One of the things this is not my expertise or anything. I'm basing this off what you said. And I've also talked to other people who brought up this from the historical perspective. Russell Gurmerkin sees the same thing you're seeing. You're talking about it from the language perspective. Putting those two together, I don't know if it's hard to argue against that. But one of the things I noticed when I look at Zechariah 6 in the Septuagint. Actually, first let me start with the NIV. When I read it for the first time, doing what I always do. I like to study. And I wanted to do a video about Alexander. So I bought this. It's the Campaigns of Alexander by Arian. And I'm reading it and I'm learning a lot about Alexander. And all of a sudden I flip to this page and all of a sudden it says, I'm going to show you on the screen. This astronomical tablet was discovered in Babylon and it's in cuneiform. Cuneiform. And then it says, this astronomical tablet is found in Babylon. It records the entry of Alexander into Babylon. What the hell? So they were still using cuneiform in the time of Alexander. And then you're like, okay, that's when he got there. Maybe that was one of the scribes left over from the Persians. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's true. All of a sudden, I keep going. I go to another page and I find another one. And this time, it's the same thing. It's a cuneiform tablet. And it says, today is the day Alexander has died, June 11th. And then, which equates to 323 BCE. So at the end of the 4th century BCE, we have Greek scribes that know and can read and write and translate cuneiform tablets. These tablets were brought to Alexandria, and that's how you get your Septuagint. We have evidence of Greeks knowing these texts. So that argument that how do they know Sumerian? It's over with. We have the evidence right here.
Glorious, Neil. Does everybody see that? There's no theory in there. There's no ideas. He's not going to write a book and make money on that book because of his dumb idea. All he's doing is saying, look, at this time, they already had access. They're doing the cuneiform, and they're assembling. Alexandria in the library is an assemblage of all of the world's work. I mean, they have collected and gathered. The Romans copy and do the same thing, right? Nero's trying to get works from all over the world. It's called building a library. Go around Ephesus, look at the friggin' library that's there. Temple of the Muses, baby. Yeah, Neil, people don't get it, but you're seeing it, right? You're seeing that real history. How's it feel to see like the reality behind the fairy tale?
Oh, it's just absolutely liberating just to not have and I used to have to argue. I used to be in a position where this had to be right, so I had to find a way to like convince myself to argue for it, apologize for it, find ways around it. But it's still possible if this happened. All these different XYZs that I'm throwing in the equation when it's just like Occam's razor, slice it right in half. It's like the text shows up in this decade. You know what I mean? And by the way, even the fairy tale you called it the fairy tale, even Josephus's passage about the creation of the Septuagint, even he said, he's not saying this is a Bible that was already there that he's translating. He's telling you this is being produced for the first time. So even in that instance, you're still being told this is being put together for the first time ever.
Yeah, it's amazing that we can have such strong evidence that just due to religious tradition, we can deny it. We can deny the logic and the reason. And Neil, if you got a room full of 10 scholars that you've had on, and you get that you could whip them up into a huge argument. If you said what we said tonight, they would say, no, there's no way that that's possible, right?
Yeah, they would just say, I've never heard that. I don't know any experts that's kind of like the way a lot. And I'm not saying I'm better or smarter than anyone else, but like you get this a lot where people will, if they haven't heard it from a big scholar yet, if it didn't come out of the mouth of like Israel Finkelstein or Bart Ehrman, then it's probably not true. Like they'll be like, no, because they would know. Like I'm not saying that I'm right or I know everything, but like you'll hear that defense a lot. Where I haven't heard any real major scholars put this forth yet, so I don't know, and they'll just shut it down right there. It's like if that's the way we look at everything, then how does anything change? How do you change any? How do you present any evidence? I mean, I guess it's happening now, like what you're doing and what Russell Gurmerkin's doing, but I'm ready to hear some pushback. Like, where's the evidence against this? Where's the citation of the Hebrew Bible in this 5th, 6th centuries where it says to be written in? I want to see that stuff.
Right. And you're not going to see it. And they know they can't produce it. They don't have the goods, but their jobs and their books all depend upon this. I mean, I would love to talk. I'd give a shout out there and an invitation to talk anytime.
331 BCE. The other one.